Hello everybody, welcome to Daily News Simplified, an answer to what, why and how of newspaper reading. Today we shall be analyzing the Hindu newspaper dated 30th of December 2018 of the New Delhi edition. The topics to be discussed today has been presented on the screen. Timestamping for the same has been provided in the description box below. The second part of today's analysis has been covered by Mehak ma'am. Let us start with today's news analysis. Now coming to the first article, which appears on page number 10. This particular article basically highlights that a private member's bill known as the Freedom of Literature Bill has been introduced in the Lok Sabha by the MP Mr. Shashi Tharoor. Hence, this particular article shall be important from the perspective of GS paper 2 governance. Further, it is also important from the perspective of prelims because in the prelims 2017, a question has already been asked with respect to the private member's bill. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we shall basically focus on two aspects. Firstly, we'll understand as to what exactly is a private member's bill and how is it different from the public member's bill. Secondly, we'll look into the private member's bill introduced by Mr. Shashi Tharoor, wherein we'll understand as to why this bill has been introduced, and secondly, we'll look at some of the important provisions of this particular bill. So let us start our analysis with the understanding of the private member's bill. As you all know, the process of lawmaking actually begins with the introduction of a bill either in Lok Sabha or the Rajya Sabha, wherein the bill can be introduced either by a minister or any other member of parliament other than a minister. So a bill which is introduced by a minister is considered to be a public bill, whereas a bill introduced by any member of parliament other than a minister is referred to as the private bill. So the basic difference between the public bill and the private bill depends upon who introduces the bill. Let us now look at some of the other differences between the public bill and the private bill. Now, since the public bill is introduced by the minister, usually the public bill reflects the policies of the government. However, if you look at the private bill, a private bill can be introduced even by a MP belonging to the opposition party. So a private bill may reflect the policies of the opposition party on the important public matters. Secondly, since a public bill is introduced by the government and usually the government enjoys a majority in the Lok Sabha, the public bill has a greater chance of being approved. However, a private bill has a lesser chance of being approved by both the houses of the parliament. The next difference is that if a public bill is rejected by the parliament, it means that the government does not enjoy the confidence of the house. So a rejection of the public bill may lead to the no confidence motion. However, the rejection of private bill by the parliament has no implications on the government. And lastly, the introduction of public bill requires 7 days notice. On the other hand, the introduction of private bill requires 1 month notice. So these are some of the important differences between the public bill and the private bill. Now coming to Freedom of Literature Bill 2018. Let us first understand as to why this bill has been introduced. This particular bill has been introduced with an intention to promote the literary freedom, wherein a person can express his views, opinions and beliefs even though such views and opinions may be contrary to the accepted social norms. So literary freedom basically means freedom to express one's views, opinions and beliefs through literary works such as books. And what it includes is, it includes even the right to criticize and question the religious beliefs and cultural traditions. Hence the promotion of literary freedom in a democratic country like India becomes extremely important. This is because the citizens of India are bestowed upon the fundamental rights by the Indian Constitution, wherein the Indian citizens have a fundamental right of not only speech and expression, but they also have a fundamental right of information, that is to know the views and opinions of others. Hence, the promotion of literary freedom becomes extremely important in order to pursue the fundamental speech and expression of the author. It promotes the fundamental right of information of the people, to know the views and opinions of others, and more importantly, banning of any kind of literary works such as books goes against the essence of democracy. This is because the democracy has to promote diversity of views, opinions and beliefs, and it should not suppress the views and opinions which are contrary to the accepted social norms. So coming now to the important provisions of the bill. Now presently under the Indian Penal Code, the Criminal Procedure Code, Information Technology Act, there are some provisions that curb the literary freedom of the authors. Hence, in this regard, this particular bill seeks to amend these provisions in order to promote the literary freedom in India. Let us look at these proposed amendments one by one. Now presently under section 295A and 298 of the Indian Penal Code, a person with a malicious intent cannot criticize and question the religious beliefs and traditions, and hence a person can be punished for outraging the religious feelings of the communities. So we can clearly see here that section 295A and section 298 of the Indian Penal Code curb the literary freedom of the authors in India, wherein there is a restriction on the authors for criticizing and questioning the religious beliefs. Hence, in this regard, this particular bill seeks omission of section 295A and section 298 of the Indian Penal Code. Further, section 292 of the IPC provides for punishment for the publication of any sexually explicit or obscene material, which clearly goes against the literary freedom. Hence, in this regard, this particular bill seeks to omit the section 292. Further, section 293 of the IPC provides for punishment for distribution of any obscene material. Now, one major difference between section 292 and 293 is that section 292 deals with the publication of obscene material, whereas section 293 deals with the distribution of obscene material. Now, with respect to section 293, this particular bill proposes to amend the section 293, wherein the distribution of obscene or sexually explicit material would be considered to be an offence only if it is targeted at children below the age of 18 years. Further, the section 67 of the IT Act provides for punishment for online obscenity, wherein a person can be punished for publishing or transmitting any kind of sexually explicit material. Now, this particular bill seeks to amend section 67 in order to cover only the child pornography, wherein a person can be punished only for publishing or circulating the child pornography. Apart from that, this particular bill seeks to amend the Criminal Procedure Code in order to provide for a new procedure for banning a book by the government, wherein the government would be now required to get the ban order ratified by the High Court within a stipulated time. So this new procedure has been proposed by the bill in order to ensure that the government does not ban any book on flimsy grounds. So these are some of the important aspects which one should know with respect to the Freedom of Literature Bill 2018. Based upon the discussion which we had so far, this would be a prelims question for the practice. Please pause this video and try to find answer to this question. We will be discussing the answer after 5 seconds. The question here is, consider the following statements related to the Private Members Bill. The first statement is, it can be introduced by Member of Parliament belonging to the opposition party. As we have discussed, a Private Members Bill is basically a bill which is introduced by any Member of Parliament other than a Minister. So a Private Member Bill can also be introduced by an MP belonging to opposition party. Hence, this particular statement is correct. The second statement is, as compared to Public Member Bill, it has lesser chances of being approved by the Parliament. And as we have discussed, even this particular statement is correct. So looking at the options here, the correct answer to this question is C, that is both 1 and 2. Now coming to the question which has been asked in the prelims 2017, the question here was, with reference to Parliament of India, consider the following statements. The first statement is, a Private Members Bill is a bill presented by a Member of Parliament who is not elected but only nominated by President of India. Now this particular statement is clearly wrong here. This is because a Private Members Bill can be introduced by both elected as well as nominated members. The second statement reads as, recently a Private Members Bill has been passed in the Parliament of India for the first time in its history. Now even this particular statement is wrong. This is because so far 14 Private Members Bill have been passed by the Parliament of India. Hence, in this regard, the correct answer to this question is D, that is neither 1 nor 2. Thus, having analyzed all the aspects related to this particular article, let us now move to the next article. Now, this particular article appears in page number 15 of the Science and Technology section of the Hindu newspaper. The title of the article is Connecting the Dots with Artificial Intelligence. This particular article shall be important from the perspective of GS Paper 3, Technology, under the subsection Science and Technology, Developments and their Applications and Effects in Everyday Life. Further, the expected UPSC mains question which can be asked with respect to artificial intelligence could be, the adoption of artificial intelligence in India would have a transformative changes in the various sectors of the economy and promote the well-being of the people. Discuss. Before analyzing this particular article, let us first look into its background. Recently, the Niti Aayog has released a discussion paper titled as the National Strategy for Artificial Intelligence. And as most of you know, the artificial intelligence is basically the science and engineering of making intelligent machines, wherein artificial intelligence focuses on making either a computer or a software program to think and behave in a manner similar to that of humans, wherein the artificial intelligence can be used for the visual perception such as facial recognition, the speech recognition, or it can be also be used for making decisions. So the Niti Aayog has realized that the artificial intelligence can have a transformative effect on various sectors of the economy. And in this regard, the Niti Aayog has released a strategy for the adoption of the artificial intelligence in India. The Niti Aayog strategy for the adoption of artificial intelligence basically focuses on 5 sectors, wherein the adoption of artificial intelligence in the healthcare system of India would make the healthcare more accessible as well as affordable. Similarly, the adoption of artificial intelligence in agriculture would enhance the farmer's income and also increase the farm productivity. With respect to education, the adoption of artificial intelligence can be used to improve the accessibility as well as the quality of education being imparted to the students. And with respect to smart cities, the adoption of artificial intelligence would lead to its efficient implementation. Similarly, the adoption of artificial intelligence in our transportation system would lead to a smarter as well as a safer mode of transportation. So these are some of the aims with which the artificial intelligence would be adopted in these 5 sectors of the economy as highlighted by the Niti Aayog's strategy. Hence, as part of this video analysis, we shall basically focus on 2 aspects. Firstly, we'll understand the benefits of artificial intelligence in different fields such as agriculture, education, healthcare, etc. And secondly, we'll look at certain barriers or challenges with respect to adoption of artificial intelligence in India. Let us understand as to what would be the probable benefits of the adoption of artificial intelligence in the different fields as highlighted by the Niti Aayog's strategy paper. Let us start with the probable benefits of the adoption of artificial intelligence on the Indian agriculture. As you all know, the Indian agriculture is basically dependent upon the monsoons, wherein almost 55% of the agricultural land is still today dependent upon the monsoonal rains. Hence, having an accurate and foolproof weather predictions become extremely critical for the Indian agriculture. So the adoption of artificial intelligence would improve the weather predictions in India, thus enabling the farmers to make certain important decisions. For example, based upon the weather predictions, the farmer can decide on the time of sowing. Similarly, the weather predictions can also be used by the farmer in order to take decision on the nature of crops to be grown. For example, if the weather predicts that the monsoon rainfall would be poor for a particular year, in such cases, the farmer may decide to grow crops that can withstand less amount of rainfall. Thus, having an accurate weather prediction by using artificial intelligence would enable the farmers to take important decisions, leading to improvement in the farmer's income and also cut down the losses which may take place due to poor rainfall. Further, the artificial intelligence can be used to monitor the soil health, leading to improvement in the soil fertility. Further, livestock rearing forms an important component of the farmer's income in India. Hence, the adoption of artificial intelligence in the Indian agriculture would enable the farmers in selecting the right kind of animals for the breeding purposes, leading to an increase in milk, egg as well as the meat production. Now coming to the probable benefits of the artificial intelligence on the healthcare system in India. Now the adoption of artificial intelligence would enable the government to integrate the data on the patient health records, and this would enable the government to analyze the health conditions of the people across India. For example, by analyzing the health records of the people, the government can identify as to which health conditions are adversely affecting the people in a particular region of the country. And based upon such an analysis, the government can formulate the policies in order to promote the well-being of the people. Thus, having an integrated database of the patient health records would drastically improve the formulation as well as the implementation of health-related policies in India. Further, the adoption of artificial intelligence would drastically improve the accessibility of the healthcare of the people living in remote and rural areas. And this can be done through the adoption of the telemedicine. Now, for example, using mobile phones with a camera, patients living in villages can send their eye images to the ophthalmologist, who can then confirm the diagnosis and accordingly recommend the necessary treatment. So, the adoption of telemedicine through the artificial intelligence would bring about a transformative change in the way the healthcare system is being delivered to the people, especially living in the rural areas. Further, the adoption of artificial intelligence would improve the accessibility as well as the quality of education being imparted in India. For example, by using satellites, lessons can be imparted to the students living in rural areas. Further, the adoption of artificial intelligence can enhance the learning experience to the personalized learning. So the adoption of artificial intelligence would make the learning experience more fun and easier. Apart from that, the artificial intelligence can also be used by the government in order to understand the reasons for the children dropping out from the schools and then design the necessary interventions. Further, the adoption of artificial intelligence in the transportation sector would make the mobility more safer as well as easier, wherein a lot of research has already been conducted with respect to the self-driving cars. Apart from that, the artificial intelligence can also be used for the traffic management, and this can drastically reduce the traffic congestion problems which is presently faced by the most of the cities in India. So these are some of the potential benefits of the artificial intelligence in the different fields. However, the adoption of artificial intelligence faces multifaceted challenges. In this regard, let us understand the present challenges before the adoption of artificial intelligence in India. Now, as we have discussed, the adoption of artificial intelligence can have a transformative effect on the various sectors of the economy. But the question which has to be asked here is, being a developing country, can India afford to spend so much amount of money on the adoption of artificial intelligence? This is because, unlike other technologies, the artificial intelligence is considered to be very costly. Secondly, even if we spend so much amount of money on the adoption of artificial intelligence, it may not have intended outcomes because of the poor awareness level of the people related to the technology. For example, people living in rural areas may not be able to make an optimum use of the artificial intelligence technology. Further, in order to adopt the artificial intelligence, India needs trained manpower, which it presently lacks. Further, we have to understand that in order to develop artificial intelligence, we need to spend a large amount of money on research and development. However, if you look at the R&D ecosystem in India, presently the level of investment in the research and development is hardly around 0.7% of its GDP. And this is considered to be quite low as compared to other countries. And lastly, since the artificial intelligence basically depends upon the collection, storage and analysis of the information, concerns have been raised with respect to data privacy. This is because the data privacy laws in India are not that strong, and we do not have a proper checks and balances on the misuse of the user's data. So these are some of the challenges before the adoption of artificial intelligence in India. So based upon our analysis, you can try writing answer to this expected UPSC mains question. Thus, having analyzed all the aspects related to this particular article, let us now move to the next article. Now the next article appears on page number 9. The title of the article is Kerala Government Considers IIT Madras Building Technology to Rebuild Houses. This particular article shall be important mainly from the perspective of prelims under the subsection General Science. Earlier, IIT Madras had developed low-cost and environmental-friendly technology to build houses. And this particular technology is known as the glass fiber reinforced gypsum building technology. And as the title of this particular article highlights here, this particular technology is now being considered by Kerala government to build the homes of the people destroyed by the floods. And this particular technology basically uses gypsum, which is a waste product from the fertilizer industry, along with the glass fibers, thus eliminating the need for the usage of bricks in the construction of houses. Further, this particular technology is considered to be environmental friendly for a number of reasons. Firstly, this particular technology relies on an efficient and optimum utilization of waste, which in this case is the gypsum. Hence, by making an optimum and efficient utilization of the waste, this particular technology avoids the usage of bricks in the construction of houses. Secondly, what is important to be noted here is that gypsum has higher thermal resistance, which means that the houses constructed by using gypsum are considerably cooler, because of which the need for air conditioners drastically reduces. Now this becomes extremely important because even though the air conditioners cool our homes, they actually warm the planet. This is because the air conditioners use the hydrofluorocarbons, which is considered to be one of the greenhouse gas responsible for the global warming. So since the use of gypsum in the construction of houses reduces the need for air conditioners, the glass fiber reinforced gypsum building technology is considered to be environment friendly. Now why this glass fiber reinforced gypsum panels become important is that because they are approved as a green material by the United Nations Framework Convention on the Climate Change under the Clean Development Mechanism provided under the Kyoto Protocol. Let us understand as to how the concept of Clean Development Mechanism works. Now under the Kyoto Protocol, the countries across the world are divided into the Annex 1 countries and the non-Annex 1 countries, wherein the Annex 1 countries are the developed countries with legally binding emission reduction targets. On the other hand, the non-Annex 1 countries are the developing countries without any legally binding emission reduction targets, which means to say that the developed countries are required to reduce their emission of greenhouse gases. And Clean Development Mechanism is one of the flexibility given to Annex 1 countries in order to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. Let us understand as to what exactly happens under the Clean Development Mechanism. Now under the Clean Development Mechanism, the developed country can make an investment in a developing country for any green project. Now these green energy projects could be solar energy projects or the wind energy projects. So the development of green energy projects in the developing countries leads to emission of less amount of greenhouse gases. For example, investment in a solar energy project in a developing country may lead to reduction in the carbon dioxide emissions by 10 tons. Now this 10 tons of carbon dioxide can be considered to be a certified emission reduction on account of the green energy projects. And these carbon emission reductions can be used by the Annex 1 countries in order to meet their emission reduction targets under the Kyoto Protocol. So under the Clean Development Mechanism, the Annex 1 countries, that is the developed countries, invest in the green energy projects in the developing countries in order to reduce their emission reduction targets. So coming back to the GFRG panels, the GFRG panels are considered to be one of the green material by the UNFCCC under the Clean Development Mechanism. Further, the investment in the GFRG panels are eligible for the carbon credits. So these are some of the important aspects which one must know with respect to this particular article. Based upon the discussion which we had so far, these two questions would be a prelims question for the practice. Please pause this video and try to find answer to this question. We will be discussing the answer after 5 seconds. Now the first question here is, consider the following statements related to the glass fiber reinforced gypsum building technology. The first statement here is, it is considered to be low cost and environmental friendly technology for the construction of houses. And as we have discussed, this particular statement is correct. The second statement reads as, the GFRG panels have been approved as green material by the UNFCCC and are eligible for carbon credits. And as we have discussed, even this particular statement is correct. So looking at the options here, the correct answer to this question is C, that is both 1 and 2. Now coming to the second question, the question here is, consider the following statements related to the Clean Development Mechanism. The first statement is, it is a new mechanism to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions which has been adopted by the countries during the Paris climate change talks. Now as we have discussed, the Clean Development Mechanism has been provided under the Kyoto Protocol and it has not been decided during the Paris climate change talks. Hence, this particular option is wrong. The second statement reads as, this mechanism enables the developed countries to implement the clean energy projects in the developing countries and earn certified emission reduction credits. And as we have discussed, the second statement here is correct. So looking at the options here, the correct answer to this question is B, that is 2 only. So having analyzed all the aspects related to this particular article, let us now move to the next article. Now coming to the next article, which appears on page number 15. Now this particular article basically talks about the outbreak of the hepatitis C viral disease in Egypt. Hence, this particular article becomes important from the perspective of prelims under the subsection General Science. And the reason as to why we have picked up this particular article is that in previous year prelims 2017 as well as 2015, questions have been asked with respect to the outbreak of viral diseases, such as in 2017, a question has been asked with respect to the Zika virus, whereas in 2015, the question was asked with respect to the outbreak of Ebola virus. Hence, in this regard, let us understand certain basic details related to the hepatitis C viral disease. The hepatitis C disease is basically a disease which adversely affects the functioning of the liver. And this particular disease is caused by the hepatitis C virus, which is normally found in the blood, and it mainly spreads through the exposure to small quantities of the blood which is infected with the hepatitis C virus, wherein this particular exposure may take place either due to unsafe injection practices or through the transfusion of the unscreened blood. And if you look at the symptoms of the hepatitis C disease, the main symptoms include fever, fatigue, joint pain and jaundice, wherein the skin of the person becomes yellowish in color. And in extreme cases, this particular disease can also lead to the liver cancer. Further, you need to note that presently there is no vaccine available against the hepatitis C disease. With respect to treatment of the hepatitis C disease, presently the antiviral medicines can cure 95% of the patients infected by this particular disease. So these are some of the important details which one should know with respect to the hepatitis C disease. Based upon the discussion which we had so far, this would be a prelims question for the practice. Please pause this video and try to find answer to this question. We will be discussing the answer after 5 seconds. The question here is, consider the following statements related to the hepatitis C disease. The first statement here is, it is a liver disease caused by the blood-borne hepatitis C virus. And as we have discussed, this particular statement here is correct. Now the second statement reads as, presently there is no vaccine as well as treatment available for this particular disease. And as we have discussed, even though there is no vaccine available against the hepatitis C disease, this disease can be treated by using the antiviral medicines. Hence, this particular statement here is wrong. So looking at the options here, the correct answer to this question is A, that is one only. Now coming to the question which has been asked in the prelims 2017, the question here was, consider the following statements. The first statement was, in the tropical regions, the Zika virus disease is transmitted by the same mosquito that transmits dengue. Now the Zika virus disease is transmitted by the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which is also responsible for the transmission of both dengue as well as chikungunya. Hence this particular option here is correct. Now the second statement reads as, sexual transmission of Zika virus disease is possible. Now the Zika virus has the potential to spread even through sexual transmission. Hence this particular statement here is correct. So looking at the options here, the correct answer to this question is C, that is both 1 and 2. Now coming to second question asked in the prelims 2015, the question here was, among the following which were frequently mentioned in the news for the outbreak of Ebola virus recently. Now the answer to this question was B. Now these countries were in news for the outbreak of Ebola virus. So having understood all the aspects related to the hepatitis C disease, let us now move to the next article. Now the next article appears on page number 14 of the Science and Technology section of the Hindu newspaper. The title of the article is On the Tracks of Earth's Mantle Helium. This particular article shall be important from the perspective of prelims under the subsection Physical Geography. Now this particular article has appeared in the newspaper because a recent research has shown that the helium element exists in the Earth's mantle in the form of a compound which is considered to be quite stable as well as solid. This is because deep down the Earth's surface, the temperature as well as pressure is considerably higher, because of which the helium exists in a stable and solid form. Now why this becomes important? Because helium is considered to be second most abundant element in the universe. However, it is hard to find the helium on the Earth's surface in a gaseous form. This is because helium as a gas is extremely lighter and can easily escape from the Earth's surface. So during the volcanic eruptions, the helium, which is found in the form of a solid compound in the Earth's mantle, gets emitted through the volcanic lava plumes. So these are some of the important aspects which one should know with respect to helium. Based upon the discussion which we had, this would be a prelims question for the practice. Please pause this video and try to find answer to this question. We will be discussing the answer after 5 seconds. The question here is, consider the following statements related to helium. The first statement here is, it is one of the abundant element found in the universe. Now this particular statement here is correct as we have discussed. The second statement reads as, it is hard to find helium in the gaseous form on the earth. Even this particular statement is correct. So looking at the options here, the correct answer to this question is C, that is both 1 and 2. With this, we have come to end of today's discussion. Now let us look at the question for the day.